Laozi said, "Heaven and earth are not benevolent. They regard the myriad things as straw dogs." The term not benevolent here does not mean lacking benevolence, but rather indicates that the sage is not disturbed by emotions, can maintain inner peace, uses reason to moderate emotions, and is not joyful over external things, nor sorrowful over oneself. Laozi said, when the great Tao declined, the doctrines of benevolence and righteousness arose, suggesting that benevolence and righteousness are only needed to maintain order when the great Tao has been abandoned. The sage has emotions, but is not entangled by them. Confucius once said that his disciple Yan Hui possessed the virtuous quality of not transferring his anger. Click the plus sign to follow this account for more exciting content. Laozi said, "Heaven and earth are not benevolent. They regard the myriad things as straw dogs. The sage is not benevolent. He regards the common people as straw dogs." The term not benevolent here does not mean lacking benevolence, but rather indicates that the sage, like heaven and earth, treats all things or all people impartially, without acting on biased emotions. This kind of absence of emotion does not mean having no emotions at all, but rather that the sage is not troubled by external emotions and can maintain inner peace and tranquility. Because heaven must take care of all directions, every time and space, and must consider the interests of all people under heaven, maintaining fairness, it is called Lord Heaven. Therefore, heaven's way of handling any single matter is, from a human perspective, incomprehensible. Confucian ethics and morality focus on social human relationships, contributing to social stability and interpersonal harmony. Laozi, starting from a natural perspective, opposed the Confucian concept of benevolence and righteousness, advocating following nature rather than man-made ethical norms. He emphasized the political philosophy of non-action, Wu Wei, believing that benevolence and righteousness are man-made, intentional, morals that violate the natural way of non-action. For example, in chapter 18 of the Tao Te Ching, Laozi mentions, when the great Tao declined, the doctrines of benevolence and righteousness arose, suggesting that benevolence and righteousness are only needed to maintain order when the great Tao has been abandoned. Furthermore, in chapter 19, he also states, abandon benevolence and discard righteousness, and the people will return to filial piety and compassion, indicating that he advocates restoring natural filial piety and compassion by abandoning man-made benevolence and righteousness. Similarly, when Daoism says, the sage has no emotions, it does not mean he has no feelings, but rather that the sage is not disturbed by emotions, achieving a state of spiritual peace and tranquility. Because the sage thoroughly understands the natural essence of all things, his mind is no longer trapped by dependence on external things or influenced by their changes. He can use reason to moderate emotions. The happiness in his heart is no longer limited by external things. It can be said that he has attained absolute happiness, that is, a person reaches the egoless state of union with the universe. See section 8.2.9.1. What is union and egolessness, rather than the relative happiness that is stimulated and influenced by the outside world and others. He has achieved the state of being not joyful over external things, nor sorrowful over oneself. Interestingly, Wang Yangming of the Confucian school of mind also commented on this topic. The absence of good and evil is the stillness of principle. The presence of good and evil is the movement of vital force. Chu Ai. Not being moved by vital force means no good and no evil. This is called the highest good. This means no good and no evil is the still default state of heavenly principle, while good and evil arise from changes in one's vital force and emotions. Do not move with vital force and emotions, and naturally there will be no good and no evil. This is the highest good. Wang Yangming's disciple further asked, the Buddhist school also has the theory of no good and no evil. What is the difference from what you say? Wang Yangming then explained, Buddhists cling to no good and no evil, and then ignore everything else, leading to indifference towards all matters, making it impossible to govern the world. The sage's no good and no evil simply means not deliberately doing good or evil, but maintaining inner peace and not being moved by vital force and emotions. When a person can follow the way of the ancient kings and reach a certain realm, he can then follow heavenly principle and naturally adjust and regulate things, making them conform to natural laws and moral norms. Similarly, the ancient Roman philosopher Seneca emphasized the inwardness of morality, believing that external good and evil are irrelevant, and that virtue and happiness lie only in the tranquility of the individual soul. In the face of worldly temptations, we must always maintain an attitude of not being moved. Therefore, to be precise, the sage has emotions, but is not entangled by them. The sage also has joy, anger, sorrow, and happiness. When successful, he must also be pleased. When failed, he must also be sad. But once the matter is over, his emotions fade away. Thus, he has emotions, has feelings and reactions, but no entanglement, is not trapped by them. The mind is like a mirror. When a good thing comes, it reflects as good. When a bad thing comes, it reflects as bad. The mirror itself has no distinction between good and bad, nor does it retain any residual influence from them. Whatever it reflects at the present moment is what it is, with no attachment whatsoever to what it reflected a second ago. Confucius once said that his most beloved disciple, Yan Hui, possessed the virtuous quality of not transferring his anger. Transferring anger means redirecting one's anger onto completely unrelated people or things. I am Wu Huaiyu, a PhD from the Chinese Academy of Sciences and a postdoctoral fellow from Peking University, and the founder of AI philosophy. For more detailed information, please refer to the complete version of this book. In addition to this short video, you can also click on my avatar to view more long videos.